Hello, a very good afternoon and a warm welcome to the News International edition on this 13th day of January 2023. We are broadcasting to you live from our Vision Group headquarters here in Kampala, Uganda. I am Emma Akwero. Now, first on our stories is the latest coming from the Russian-Ukraine war is that Elena Malkunova is one of only 5 doctors left in the eastern Ukrainian city of Bakhmut, which lies in ruins following months of Russian attacks. While she admits that she's unable to treat all patients that come to her, particularly those suffering from mental health problems, she says for the time being she has enough supplies. We have received medicine coming from the World Health Organization for heart disease, for fever, for wounds, antibiotics, and even for anticonvulsants. When the shelling starts, she closes her medical center, and if there's enough time, she runs to the basement for shelter.
At a health center in the frontline Ukraine city of Bakhmut, Dr. Elena Molchanova ushers patients into a narrow office warmed by a wood-burning stove where she hands out medication and fills in death certificates. Yes, there were some patients we couldn't treat, mainly patients taking psychotropic medicine. We can't provide these. Everything we have, we give. Elena Molchanova holds fast despite life-threatening circumstances. Sometimes her visitors, the last remaining residents in the town shelled daily and cut from essential services, are just seeking shelter from the biting cold. I am a little afraid, but I need to do my job no matter what. Bakhmut has been at the heart of a grinding fight between Russian and Ukrainian forces in the past few months in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region that Moscow wants to control fully. When the shelling is close, we close our health center and go to the basement if there is enough time to take shelter. He can't hear, he can't see. He has no clue that there is a war, that we are being shelled. He does not know there is a war going on. I won't leave. Firstly, I was born here and grew up here. And secondly, I am afraid of taking this old man with me. He could die traveling. He's not in good condition to travel. The 40-year-old doctor is one of just 5 left in Bakhmut who are now a lifeline to some 8,000 people local officials say are still in the city. Tetiana, a resident, is taking care of an 81-year-old neighbor and has no option but to stay in Bakhmut. When the city was bustling with its pre-war population of some 70,000, the hallways of Molchanova's clinic were lit, the toilet running, and the welcome desk staffed. Now, she keeps to the one office with haphazard stacks of medical equipment, sacks of potatoes, and papers piled around her. Many of those still living in the midst of fighting in Bakhmut and the nearby town of Solidar, described by a top Ukrainian official, the bloodiest since Russia invaded last February, are elderly or have disabilities.
Now, elsewhere in Kharkiv, months of intense shelling have seriously damaged many residential buildings in the Ukrainian city. Without waiting for the government assistance to arrive, residents of one building in Saktiva district have mobilized themselves to carry out the work themselves.
That commitment is grounded in the clear-eyed realization that Kharkiv, hollowed out by weeks of heavy Russian bombardment, will remain especially vulnerable as long as the war lasts. Sitting 30 miles from the border with Russia, it will always be within striking distance. Yulia Kupchenko is one of the Kharkiv residents carrying out the repairs. All the windows were blown off, so we covered them with plastic film to avoid drafts. We were given a roll of film and our residents brought it here. The windows in the corridors were also shattered. The glass used in the doors, we covered it all. Experts say it could take years, perhaps decades, to restore Ukraine's second-largest city to what it was. We have resourceful men here who have soldered pipes by themselves and donated money according to their ability. If you walk over there, you can see they changed the doors and fully repaired the first apartment without the owners even being present at all. However, community workers and volunteers are focused on making the present livable for those who remain, many of whom still shelter in the underground bunkers, metro stations, or on the relatively safer pockets in the center and southwest of the city.
And in the U.S., President Joe Biden will cooperate with special counsel appointed to investigate classified documents uncovered in the garage of his home in Wilmington, Delaware. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre has told reporters, reading a statement by a White House lawyer. The first cache of Biden documents was discovered a week before last year's midterm elections, but only acknowledged by the White House on Monday, prompting accusations from Republicans that it was kept secret for party political reasons.
The U.S. Attorney General named an independent prosecutor Thursday to investigate President Joe Biden's handling of classified documents after a furor over secret papers found at his former office exploded with the discovery of a second batch. The new find, like the original from Biden's time as vice president, was uncovered in the garage of his home in Wilmington, Delaware, where he often spends weekends, the White House said.
As the president said, he takes classified information and materials seriously. And as we have said, we have cooperated from the moment we informed the archives that a small number of documents were found, and we will continue to cooperate. We have cooperated closely with the Justice Department throughout its review, and we will continue that cooperation with the special counsel.
Attorney General Merrick Garland announced that Robert Hur, an appointee of Biden's predecessor Donald Trump, would be empowered to examine whether the Kate violated any law. The appointment came hours after the White House acknowledged the second batch of papers but did not address their contents, supercharging a scandal over a first set found at a Washington think tank where Biden had an office.
Again, he was surprised that these records have been found. He does not know what's in them. And his team, once they identified that these documents were there, they immediately reached out to the archives, to the Department of Justice, and rightfully so, did the right thing by turning that over. And they have been cooperating very closely with the Department of Justice. You actually heard
Republicans in Congress who have been accusing the White House of a cover-up over the affair swiftly announced their own inquiry to run independently of the criminal probe. The disclosures have prompted comparisons to the special counsel investigation of Trump's hoarding of hundreds of classified materials at his Florida beachfront home and his alleged obstruction of government efforts to get them back.
Let me just say, during the review, and this is so that folks know, the lawyers discovered among personal and political papers a small number of additional Obama-Biden administration records with classified markings. All but one of these documents were found in storage space in the president's Wilmington residence garage. One document consisting of one page was discovered among stored materials in an adjacent room. No documents were found in the Rehoboth Beach house. Look, I just want to underscore that
the president said a small number of documents with classified markings had been found in storage areas and his library, and that the Justice Department was notified immediately. Biden declined to take shouted questions from the press, but a White House lawyer said later the documents had been inadvertently misplaced. Trump, who's facing multiple criminal and civil probes, took to his Truth Social platform to call for an immediate end to his investigation because I did everything right.
Still in the United States, here are images of damage caused by storms and tornadoes in the southern states of Georgia, Alabama, and Kentucky, where at least 6 people were killed after tornadoes hit these areas, according to rescue services.
At least 6 people were killed on Thursday when a tornado and powerful storms ravaged the southern U.S. state of Alabama, rescue officials confirmed. The storms continued east to rake the neighboring state of Georgia, where the National Weather Service maintained tornado warnings in the early evening. Alabama Governor Kay Ivey tweeted that she was sad to have learned that 6 Alabamians were lost to the storms. The victims were killed in Otagoa County. Deputy Director of Emergency Services Gary Weaver told AFP. A tornado touched down in Dallas County as well, ripping off roofs from buildings and causing significant damage, according to Selma Mayor James Perkins, who called on residents to stay off roads and keep away from downed power lines. City crews will be dispatched as soon as possible to clean up, the city added on Facebook. Other counties where states of emergency were declared included Chambers, Coosa, Elmore, Tallapoosa. Tornadoes, a weather phenomenon that is as impressive as it is difficult to predict, are relatively common in the United States, especially in the central and southern parts of the country. In late November, 36 tornadoes were reported in Alabama and Mississippi, leaving 2 people dead.
The News International edition will now take a short break, but please stay with us.